What's up, everyone? Happy Hump Day. It's Coach Tam, Chief Visionary Officer of 265 Point Total Fitness. And today I wanted to check in to provide a update, a recap on our Strive Experiencing God Bible study. We had a great time tonight as we prepare to kind of wrap up the year. We only have a couple of more sessions left, but we are continuing our study of the Experiencing God book, which is all about us developing a deeper relationship with God. And in this particular study tonight, we explore the concept of God developing the character to match the assignment. So what we learned through this process, family, as we started to really dig in, is that there's often a process before promise. We would love for it to be that, God calls us to this really grand assignment, and then the next thing that we know, we are walking in the fullness of that. But when we really look at the examples of Scripture, we see the exact opposite. We see that God often asks us to prove faithful in small, sometimes seemingly insignificant assignments before we graduate to those bigger assignments. So God is always going to grow us and mature us. He's going to also ask us to do things that we don't feel particularly qualified to do. We don't feel that we have the skills and the talents to do. We may not have any prior experience in it. Did you know that the author of Experiencing God didn't really see himself as a writer? But lo and behold, the work that he did by being obedient to God, the book has impacted millions of people and has been translated into over 40 languages, all because he was obedient, again, to an assignment that he really didn't see aligning with his strengths and his interests. We also talked about how we can't assume that when God shows us a vision of the future, that we are ready to walk into it right now. So we looked at some examples like David and Paul. They were 10, 12 years in between the moment when God showed them what their future would look like and when they actually walked into it. We talked about even Joseph, how he had the dream of himself kind of elevated and his brothers bowing down to him, but there were years and years and years before that actually happened. And we talked about how there's a reason for that. It goes back to that first point. God has to develop us. He has to grow our character so that we are able to handle what he has for us. And not just the tasks that God has for us, but the people that God has for us. For also, all of us have people that are assigned to us, and we want to make sure that we take good care of them, that we don't hurt them, that we don't mistreat them, and that we don't lead them down the wrong path. So God has to grow us so that we can truly be equipped to make an impact. We also talked about this concept of patience. Now, I learned this from Joyce Meyer. This wasn't specifically in the book, but it stood out for me for the last few years since I heard her say it. She said, patience is not the ability to wait, because we're going to wait for as long as God says we are going to have to wait. She said, no, patience is the ability to wait with a good attitude. So tonight we explored, how good are we really at waiting? How good are we at waiting when God gives us one step, but we don't know what the next step is going to be? When he asks us to step into something that's really uncomfortable, that we didn't anticipate, and we're wondering, what is the next step going to be? How patient are we? Are we complaining about what we don't know and how the situation is uncomfortable, or are we waiting with a good attitude? Those are all opportunities for God to continue to develop our character to match the assignment. And then we wrapped up by talking about how this temptation to take shortcuts didn't start with us. As we look at Scripture, Satan actually tempted Jesus to take shortcuts, right? And so he's going to do the same for us. So what we have to do is make the commitment we talked about tonight. We've got to make the commitment to invest the time and the energy in our relationship with him, in our relationship with God, so that we know his voice. We know when he's speaking to us. We know what the timing should look like. We know what the next step should be, so we don't have to operate in self and get ourselves in a place that we definitely don't want to be. So it's been a fantastic study. We're making our way through Experiencing God, and we'll pick up again in 2 weeks. Can you believe it? On December 4th. I hope that you will meet us there in the Stevens Mill Shopping Center in Matthews. If you're not in the area, then I want you to tune in. Continue to catch up with us on these recaps so that you can learn a little bit more about how to grow your relationship with God as well. I hope you have a great Wednesday, and I'll talk to you soon. God bless.